Hi, everyone. This is Ariela, Halevi, Wildflower Mystic, and welcome to our podcast today. I'm so excited because not only do I have sitting in front of me the beautiful Jenna Zadaka, but she's also a friend, a sister, and we met in Boulder at her women's circles, and we are both passionately excited and involved in women's circles, both in Denver and Boulder. So I definitely want to talk about that today. But before I begin, I want to introduce you, and then we'll talk about what we're going to explore today. So Jenna is a trauma-informed somatic coach, embodiment practitioner, and teacher of Jewish mysticism, mindfulness, and yoga. She weaves together earth-based spiritual and feminine wisdom to guide inner-directed healing through the body. Rooted in the belief that the divine is found through our flesh, Jenna supports others in reconnecting to joy, vitality, and ancestral guidance. Her work blends somatics, creative visualization, and sacred ritual. And we'll talk a little bit at the end about where they can connect with you, both on Instagram and on your website. So let's dive in. I'm so excited that you're here because I feel like, first of all, meeting you was definitely meant to be. It's definitely from God, spirit, source. And we're the same Enneagram number. And I feel like I've never met anybody that bridges the spiritual, the connection to God and spirit, to God, spirit, Hashem, with the idea that we're still here in this vessel. And so this beautiful connection that we have to God is also very important to bring in to our bodies. So many people have heard of the idea of spiritual embodiment. Many people know about somatics and different practices to help your body release trauma so there's more space in there. But I think today what I'd like to do, because we're so connected on this idea that deep in our roots, right? Whether you have Jewish roots like us or your roots, whoever is listening to this, I believe they're all one. But deep in our roots, there is a wisdom-filled tradition. There are mystics that inform and come through the seen world, right? The unseen to the seen world. And what do we do with that? The goal really is to create this vessel that we live in, right? And Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism talks about how do we strengthen our vessel in order to receive the light of spirit. And so let's talk about that. And first, I'd just love to start with a prayer so we can go in together. So let's close our eyes. And if you're listening, I'm going to invite you to close our eyes. And this may be different for you listening to a podcast, but here we are, Jenna and I, creating the vessel of our discussion together. So it's more than a discussion. It's actually a sanctuary, a space. And so breathing into our own vessels, letting our energy root down from our head all the way down to our toes as if we are a tree of life, the embodiment of God herself. And as we breathe in and just let those toes, the bottom of our feet, open as if little doors are opening. We let our roots sink down further into the ground, into the mama, the earth that protects us and loves us. And then we allow our energy to move down further, down through the beautiful openings, the doorways to our ancestors. And so as we open our sanctuary, this deep conversation, I pray and I ask God, Spirit, Hashem, Source, that you bring our wise and well ancestors forward here, as if Jenna and I are sitting together in a circle of wisdom-filled ancestors that just want us to feel Spirit's love, be Spirit's love, and embody Spirit's love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Jenna, I'd love to explore like 50 different things with you. Tell me a little about what you feel about bringing the idea of the divine into your own body, and then how you see that for a world in which we have so much information coming at us about embodiment. What is your take on it?
Firstly, so honored to be here and so special to be face to face with you. I really feel the sanctuary that you create wherever you go, and that itself is a vessel. So thank you for inviting me into this vessel. And I feel like our soul has made such a mighty dive from the heavenly abodes, from oneness, from the place it feels most comfortable, because clearly there's something valuable about this body and this physical world, that the soul made such a mighty, mighty descent to get here. And so many of us, especially spiritual seekers or empaths or people who are sensitive to these divine realms, it feels easier to escape up and out because it's natural for us to desire that oneness above and that connection and the nourishment that comes from flying upwards, heavenward. And it's our soul's deep desire to be in this body and to draw that light down and through. We all have different escapes. Some people, it's through alcoholism, or some are with workaholism, and some escape with these like negative outlets. But spirituality can also be a form of escape from being in this vessel, because when we come into our vessel, we also have to be present with the discomfort and the unease and the pain, and we often resist that. So my lifelong passion and pathway is to really see how these worlds can intermingle and how the divine information can be expressed through our body. So I'd love to speak to you right now about some different pathways that I see are potent.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go there, I love what you said. I think both of us are pretty sensitive, intuitive, and empathic. And I think you and I both work and are around very intuitive women. And what I've seen, and also in myself, is that it's an interesting thing when an intuitive, sensitive person decides to embody, and like that soul choice to come down into our bodies. And I've worked with a lot of women that have early life trauma, and those traumas can open the gateways to a very deep spirituality. It's almost like you said, it can be an escape because the body can go through really painful things here, and the traumas that we've had and the things we've all gone through can be, challenging and hard. But I specifically find it with women that have had trauma and are sensitive, and I'm sure men too, but like this portal is open, and it's almost like God's asking us to grasp on instead of leave your body because you've had so much. It's almost like this gateway or this opening where the hand of God comes down and says, okay, you've been through some stuff, but don't escape. But you now this crown chakra, or the malchut, not malchut, the keter. It's like, what is it in Hebrew? The keter, the crown, is open even deeper for the hand of God to come through us, because we're human and because a lot of women have been through so much, and so have men. I'm just curious what your take on of that is.
Yeah, well, you reminded me of teaching from the Midrash, the oral Torah, that says our deeper vision and our deeper sense of sight comes from the black pupil of our eye. And right now we're in the Hebrew month of Tammuz, which according to Kabbalah is all about seeing deeper and wider and expanding our sense of vision. And what this means to me, and how I read this, was it's through the dark, the concealed, through the pain, as you said, through the trauma, that we actually get to see something deeper and wider. And if we're only in the light of our eyes, if we're only seeing the good and the godly and the interconnectedness and the oneness, we're actually missing some of the depth of the divine, because as we know, the divine speaks through the light and the dark.
Right.
And it's auspicious that we're meeting right now in this month of Tammuz, which is about embracing grief, such a difficult, dark emotion, and yet it's a spiritually elevated experience in the realm, in the perspective of Jewish mysticism, to not try to escape it and just see the good, but also to be in our brokenness and dwell in the sorrow, and how that is going to bring us to wholeness, to shleimut.
I love that so much. I love the teaching of Tammuz, right? How the eyes are the inner sight. Right? The inner sight is the godly sight, where we have that ability to truly see that life is not just living above your crown and connection all the time. It is deep connection, but it is that connection to like when the earth splits, right? And when there is that darkness, what do you do with it? And do you hide or do you embody more? I also think, and maybe we can talk about practices of embodiment, just to get a little personal, and I would love to hear your personal practice or things that you struggle with maybe too. There a few weeks ago, I had a really challenging situation with one of my children, and what it bumped into me was, it was almost like, oh, honey, all of your somatic practices are going out the door. It was like, it was almost like the hand of God in that deep, dark part of the eye was like, you're going to have to just sit with this one and be broken and don't run and don't escape it. And I really felt it engulf me, and it was quite scary, but also it was a profound teaching. And I think, our minds want to escape when the body hurts, when we're going through hard things. And so maybe we can talk about practices that you do when things are darker and you're trying to find and grasp, where is God and where is my body, and how you move through that personally.
Yeah. And before I share that, I want to just reflect how beautiful that experience is in our life, to be present with what is instead of what should be. I should be doing a practice, or I should come into ritual or my embodiment. And sometimes the divine shakes things so that we can really learn to be with what is.
Totally.
And there's a quote from Rabbi Mendel of Katz that says, there's nothing as whole as a broken heart. And that's also this time of Tammuz that's really teaches us for the whole year, is to just be with the cracks, be with the broken walls without trying to rebuild or restructure and even move anywhere and transform it. There's a time for that later on, but right now it's just to be with the brokenness and how holy and special that is. So I think so many practices of mine are to come back to what is and not what should be. And I do want to be honest and say, for many, many, many years of my life, especially as I came into religious Judaism and found the mystical path, and so much of my spiritual seeking did take me up and out into what should be, and all the expectations, and trying to escape and move into that bliss feeling. And it was really a big awakening when I went to the Arizal, who is a big mystical teacher buried in Sfat in northern Israel. When I went there for a spiritual experience, and I went to pray at his gravesite, like many, many Jews do, and people from all faiths come to experience his soul there. And what I got was the opposite. What I got was this big message to be in my body. And I was moved in my body, and I was feeling my sit bones in the earth. I was feeling my body sway side to side, and it was showing me now is the time to come down and in. Mm-hmm. And so my practice that always can bring me back to that state is exactly what happened there. To sit on the earth, feel my sit bones rooted, to breathe and follow the impulse of my body, which sways back and forth like a flame, to roll around my hips, to just follow what my body is showing me, and knowing that that comes from spirit, from a really deep, divine place.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that you lived in Israel like we did. And like you went to this amazing rabbi's grave, and it's almost like he turned you and he was like, go deep, go down. Right. It's like, we expect these big, amazing messages, and he's like, no, just go down. And that's where all your answers are. Right. And I love the idea of how simple it is I've been practicing that. My dog is a great teacher. He's Israeli too. My dog is a great teacher. And he's been showing me, especially this summer when there's been a lot of challenges like within our family, just a lot of transition. And he's just practicing the idea of just rolling, right? He's older. He doesn't really want to walk far, but he's like, literally he'll like grab me and he's like, no, we're not moving until you're in the grass. And that idea of just laying with your head up and looking at the clouds and feeling the unseen come through the scene, right? And I think it's in that quiet space, even when we may be struggling, that the embodied spirituality is truly just, like you said, swaying and doing what comes naturally to you in particular, right? I think you and I have very similar ways of embodying, but not everybody does. But it's like, find your sweet spot, explore and take the time to feel into what works for that individual person.
Yeah. And I like to think of it as finding the map of your body, exploring your somatic pathways.
Yeah.
I know for myself, when I'm going up and out, I visualize and I see myself weaving like streams of water up. And then when I'm coming down and in, there's this image of a waterfall and a feeling of a waterfall. And personally, for me, the waterfall moves from the front of my heart to the back of my heart, from the back of my heart down into my hips. It pools at my pelvis, and then it rolls down my legs and into my feet. And I know if I can always come into that waterfall, and this is my pathway. And I want to encourage everyone to explore their map.
Yes. So speaking of maps, I think it's a perfect segue to talk about how you and I connect. I feel like we could talk all day. I was a yoga teacher for a long, long time. And then I started teaching Jewish yoga. And so embodying what's called the sphirot in the body. So basically, for those that don't know, the chakra system, most people know about the chakra system in yoga. And it's this idea that like there are light centers in our bodies, and that's almost like the plug-in of where the divine meets us. And in Kabbalah, it's this idea of what's called the sphirot. So a little bit of a different diagram, map, if you will. But I think it's the similar concept is that here's a map of how to embody. So I know you've taught on the sphirot. Maybe you can do like just a brief summary of why specifically the chakras or the sphirot are one of the maps that you teach or that you use in your practice.
Yeah. And the root of sphira really means sipur, like a divine story. So it's how the light of God comes down and manifests and creates in this world. And traditionally, the sphirot have been taught from a very masculine perspective in the tree of life, which is keter to malchut, or crown to root. And what I'm particularly drawn to and interested in is the opposite direction, which is malchut to keter, or root to crown. And knowing that the light flows in both directions and we absorb information, we absorb godliness in different ways. We acquire wisdom in different ways. And discovering both directions of this, as you say, like map of divine consciousness is a way that we can be a bridge between heaven and earth, between flesh and spirit, or earth and sky. And it's a really powerful way to come into your subtle energy centers and see how they interconnect, see where you're out of balance or need alignment, need a tikkun, a rectification. It's a lifelong study. But what I think is beautiful is that we can go from Malchut to Keter. We can start from earth to inform the body, and the body gets to lift and raise the heart, which can affect the mind and then ultimately affect the divine realms. We can create a ripple and a change up there as well. So
Amazing.
It's really empowering.
I love that idea of kind of switching it around, right? And that's so, we have that structure. The map is like the more masculine. And then the feminine comes in and says, oh, why don't we flip it, right? Why don't we, I do something in my work called somatic channeling, where we go into different parts of the body and we listen to it and we hear its story and its feelings. And so it reminds me of that a little bit of like, well, what if we, some days we're going to go from Malchut, like root to crown. And then what if one day we go right into Tiferet, which is our heart center, our heart chakra, and blend the strength and the love and bring it in. And, maybe your heart needs some embodiment. Maybe we go directly through there. So I love that idea of having the structure for our body needs the vessel, whether it's that map or just the container that we live in. And then we get to play in that vessel. And so do you ever go through different parts? Do you start always at root to crown, or do you go through different parts of the body?
Yeah, so each sphera is a whole sphere, a whole illumination, a whole world. And when we were talking about embodiment, my thought right away went to Netzach and Hod, which is like the feet brain. And so really depending on what you need, you can access directly there. Netzach and Hod, like coming into our feet brain and our ability to either walk forward or step back, to conquer or to surrender. And you can see this dynamic at play in all areas of life. Personally, my favorite ways in are Tiferet and Hod. Those are like my sphirot that I love. And I think when anyone goes in, they may find that they resonate with one at a particular time in their life. And that either means that you need healing in that area or that you are like an embodiment of that sphera. Yeah,
I love that. That idea that perhaps one of your stories of, wherever it came from, a past life or this lifetime or early childhood, can be your entry point into the body in a deeper way. I mean, I think it goes with this idea that meeting our bodies, right? If we're a team with the divine and then the body and then ourselves, our soul. Like I always see it as like a three, like the challah that we make for Shabbat is braided with 3 braids. And so it's body, God, and soul, our souls. And to enter, a lot of women, I think, live from the neck up, right? The mind is not so safe, but safer than living in the body. And I think a nice entryway is saying that there's your story, part of your story. Maybe it's in your ovaries, maybe it's in your digestion. If you have digestive issues, can be the entry point of a deeper love instead of, oh, I don't want to deal with that, or I can't embody in that way, or it hurts, right? It can be actually the entry point in. So I don't know if you've ever worked with people that have a hard time embodying and like have stories there and making and like allowing that story to be their entry point. Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the visuals that come to mind when you're speaking about these maps and these the way that the divine flows in and through the world is the symbol of the Magen David, the Star of David, which is a universal symbol. Here we have it. And they're like two arrows pointing in opposite direction. There's one that starts at the base, nice and wide. It's like, I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm anchored, I'm gathering life force from the earth, and I'm like an arrow lifting that up through the heart, through the crown. And that is the feminine direction, the arousal from below. And then we have the other triangle that has a base that's wide and expansive in heaven, in the upper realms, and it's light that wants to come down and flow through the world. And yet between those two, there's a lot of spaciousness and overlap, and that's where we get to live.
Yes, that's so beautiful. A lot of times when I'm doing healing work, I see the Magen David as a source of divine protection as well. And sometimes when I'm working with somebody that needs it, Jewish or non-Jewish, doesn't matter, the guides and ancestors put this protection of the upside down triangle on the right side triangle in the front body and the back body. The back body needing that sense of rootedness and I've got you, and the front body being more of the soft entry point into the divine. And so they use the triangle as like these like you said, entry points and protection.
That soft, porous, receptive front body, which is so feminine and can receive the world and is just a vessel to allow in. And then the back body, which is like strong and rooted and supported, really reminds me of in the tree of life, like the trunk of who we are, which needs, and that is Tiferet. It's the blend of the soft and the sturdy and the feminine and the masculine. And Tiferet means beauty, which is this harmonious trunk that is healthy and alive. And I love that visual. And also with the Magen David, it could be helpful to, if there's an area on the body, like you said, that maybe is your story is maybe where your tikkun or rectification needs awareness and energy flow, is to visualize the Magen David there, kind of circle it around and get that protection, that balance. And then there's also in the Magen David, the in out. We have up, down, we have right, left, we have diagonal, and we also have what brings us into our center, what helps us come to the deepest essence of ourselves, and then what helps us expand and illuminate our energy outwards.
And you and I are so visual, so I can see everything you're like, as you're talking, I can see it all. That's amazing. So I feel like if we're going to talk about embodiment, and I think we're both pretty passionate about ancestral healing and wisdom, I guess let's talk a little bit about this idea that, you know, I see two different lines of energy when I do ancestral healing. And one is the story, right? Oh, my mom did it this way, and this is the way this went. Or like, oh, thyroid issues run in my family. And there's a lot of sensitive women that I work with have the agreement without even knowing that they came to hold those stories in their bodies. And in particular, I go through levels and layers of this. I had deep knowledge of this when I first started ancestral healing. And I think 2 weeks ago, I realized, this is still a thing. And so there's this energy of when we open to this world, it's almost like unconsciously or subconsciously, perhaps we agree to hold our ancestral wounds. And then there's this other like beautiful river of wisdom. It can be from, our tradition, but it also can be in a particular line of wherever this person comes from. But there's this beautiful idea of like ancestral wisdom just flowing through. For example, when you and I started and we were doing our prayer, now this might be a little out there for some of us, but I could feel there's a Rebbe. You have tradition in what's called Chabad. You have roots in what's called the Chabad tradition of Judaism, which we won't get into. But I could feel the energy of the Rebbe, just like one hand over here next to you, one hand next to me.
Oh,
and it was
so
like,
beautiful.
like it makes you a little teary. It was like, this is good. Like, Tov, like, this is good. Like, what you're doing is good. Like, do this. Right? It was like this acknowledgement that what we're doing here, you and I, is like a beautiful thing. So
the Rebbe's yurt site this month.
That's right. It was last weekend. Yeah.
His passing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I went to a Chabad service just to celebrate him. So, that's Jenna, that's our way, like this Jewish mysticism. And I think it's universal. I think, but we all have those wisdom keepers within our own tradition, in our own line, collectively and individually. And I guess, let's explore that. Like, do you have a sense of how that affects us both positively and also teaching us better boundaries?
Yeah. Well, my first experience connecting with ancestors, I was hoping I want something from them. I want wisdom. I want guidance. And I was surprised it was the opposite, that when I had this meeting, it was they wanted me to witness them. They needed to be seen, and just seeing them was a big healing that they needed. And at the same time, like over time, I also had tremendous healing from that. But I think often we think in our lifetime that they're here to serve us and to help us, but they actually also need us. And we have feet, we have arms that they don't necessarily have anymore, that we can carry on a purpose or a mission that maybe was left incomplete.
I love that so much. So what you're saying is actually the body is such a gift, right? Those that pass on also receive gifts from the soul, the lessons and the deeper teachings. But what a gift it is to be here and to be the body, not to hold on necessarily to the angst or the stories of the line, but to say, if I'm here, let me meet them halfway. I always think of like the divine also. If I'm the one here, a lot of us are just like, okay, show me the messages. I work with a lot of women, and everyone says like, where are the signs? Where's my loved ones? Where's my ancestors? I don't feel them. Like I walk around and I'm just like, they're not there for me. It's only for you, or it's only for this person. And there's nothing special about connection. It's the step forward that you're willing to take in this body. And that's very individual, but it's like, we have to meet God halfway, just like we have to meet our ancestors halfway.
It reminds me of a beautiful teaching in Jewish history. There was pilgrimages to the Holy Temple. And you'd think, they went for this big spiritual experience, or they went to have atonement and all these reasons of these long pilgrimages to the temple. But it says in our tradition that they went to see and be seen, to be witnessed just as they are, and to witness others as they are. And that power that lies in our eyes, our physical eyes in this physical body. And perhaps it was also to see and be seen by our ancestors in this holy temple.
That's so beautiful. To just show up.
Yeah.
Right? I love that.
And it's vulnerable to allow yourself to be witnessed in your pain, in your sorrow, and in your joy and light. And to see others with loving kindness and compassion.
I think that's one of, like you said, tikkun rectifications, is if we're in this body, we have the ability to see through the eyes of the divine. And if we're going to meet the divine halfway and show up as we are, we also have the ability to rectify or move through those points inside of us that are very human, and becoming more godly and connection from the unseen world means to clarify or heal the points in us that can be, judgmental, ego, fear-based, right? All those things that might be like what I dealt with a couple of weeks ago showed me deeply. Like I just kind of allowed myself to just break open on all levels. And what it showed me was a deep holding a deep fear. And someone said to me, yeah, but what you do for work, you have deep trust and faith. And I'm like, yeah, but there are these times in our lives when we are cracked open, and I don't care what you do for a living or how much faith and trust you have, it gets to that inner point. And that is when we work on our refinement, right? Whether it's fear, anxiety, ego. My teacher used to call it overimportance or underimportance. And they're both equally as damaging. So meeting the divine halfway, meeting our ancestors halfway means, can we heal and do deep healing with that particular thing we've been shown here in this lifetime to move through a greater embodiment? Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I think one of the things that is really important for people to establish to create a vessel, especially if they're one to go up and out and spiritually kind of leave off in this world, is to create ritual. And I think both of us have a love and desire for ritual in our life. And I wanted to touch on ritual as a vessel. I think it is the vessel that we create in time to receive divine moments and to receive energy.
Yes, 100%. So this last part of our podcast, I wanted to talk about our passion that we actually share, which is ritual and circle, right? And so I think, maybe let's talk about what that means, like bringing women together in a circle, and how feminine and divine that is, and how embodied we can be. So let's talk about your circles, and let's go with that. Yeah.
Well, as we spoke about earlier, the circle is a place to see and be seen primarily. And what's beautiful about the shape of a circle is there's no hierarchy. And while there may be facilitators or people offering certain things, the physical shape of a circle is everyone is equidistant from the center. And that center is truth. That center is God.
Right.
And ideally in a circle, everyone is receiving and offering equally. And this was the vision of the prophets, is that in the Olam Haba, in the worlds to come, all lines will be replaced by circles. And we see this in the splitting of the sea, the big moment when the Israelites went free and the sea split open, and the tradition teaches that the men all went into a line, and Moses sang a song and everyone followed. And Miriam, the leader of the woman, brought everyone into a circle, and they sang in unison, and they brought tambourines, and all of our sages say they had a more elevated experience. And I think circle consciousness is more vulnerable because your heart is open, your front body is all there. In a line, you're protected because someone's behind you and someone's in front of you. In a physical line, you're like protected and you can just follow, and someone's following you. But in a circle, you are bringing your whole self.
Yeah, it's vulnerable. I think, and I've seen, my husband, he leads men's circles as well. So it's so nice to see that men are doing more and more of this and exposing their front self, right? Like this vulnerability more and more. And I do agree that a form of embodiment is being vulnerable with other, for us, it's with other women. And then to bring in ritual and that mysticism, right? And to bring in nature. And I think we both agree that like the elements and the pillars, like you talk about, of wholeness really does begin in using plants and nature and the water and all of those. And then how we express it is, and you and I both kind of use the Jewish calendar or mysticism to express that monthly and what that looks like. But it's an entry point. I think it's next level personally, right? We can do this individually. And I think we've done this individually for way too long. And I think we're all craving this embodiment together, right? And doing this vulnerable circle together instead of you're in your house and I'm in my house and we're doing this thing alone. But now it's like this opening to what is the next phase of our, I don't know what you want to call it, embodiment, enlightenment, higher consciousness.
Yeah. And this collective consciousness is what we're moving towards, which is the circle, as we're creating ritual in the collective. And something powerful about ritual is you show up, whether you're feeling like it or not, whether you're in the state of, say, Nisan, Passover, freedom,
right,
or coming in Tammuz, in sorrow, in despair. The steadiness of ritual is this continuous return to showing up as you are and creating sacred space.
Absolutely.
And whatever needs to come through will come through if you have a steady practice.
Yes. I love that. I feel like so what we just did was close the circle, right? We started kind of out, and then we just came in through this idea of like community and circle. And so I'm so glad that we had this time together. I mean, I know you and we're friends, and I consider you my sister, and then to bring this cohesiveness together in our own work is so beautiful. And I hope that everyone felt a sense of their own embodiment and their own practices of what works for them. We were offering tidbits of where we come from mystically and also in our own bodies. So maybe just tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how people can find you.
Thank you. And yes, to closing the circle and bringing the circle into us and creating circles in our life. So amen to that. May it be so. You can find me on my website at authenticroots.com, AWE. And I have some courses coming up and retreats and ceremony and workshop. I work both in Boulder, Colorado, and virtually online.
Great.
Yeah. And I'm dreaming of one day collaborating with you on some offering, some circle that we can share.
Absolutely. That would be great. So thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Jenna, so much.
Thank you for having us.
Don't forget to join me once a month in my Women's Circle, Wildflower Women's Circle gathering, which is in person in Denver. And again, a potential future collaboration with Jenna feels like it's in the works. But you can join us and find out all of our events at wildflowermystic.com. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.